second story I have for you is a traditional Japanese folk tale. It is called The Storyteller and the Samurai. This is a favorite one of a lot of martial arts programs, let's just say. Seems there was an old man. Now, why storytellers are old men? This has always amazed me, but I'm getting away. There was an old man who was a storyteller. And the way it worked in those days, as he was out about, he would go from village to village and he would share stories, and he would pick up stories. He would share news and he would pick up news, and then he'd go on to the next village or farm and he'd share that news or that story. And he was always welcomed. And he knew that whenever he went to a welcoming home or village, that he could count on getting at least one good meal and a nice, dry, warm place to sleep. And that was his existence, going from town to village to farm. And that's what he was doing this one day. He had his knapsack on his back, he had his walking stick, and he was going down the road. And as he went down the road, he began thinking, I'm getting pretty tired. I've been walking a long time, and oh, my feet hurt. My feet hurt all the way up to my knees. I was thinking, oh, geez, this knapsack's so heavy. Boy, I'm glad that I have my walking stick. He kept going, and he realized that he was hungry. Now he had a little food in his knapsack, but he kind of wanted to make that last because he wasn't sure where the next meal was coming from. So he just kept going, thinking that he was hungry, and he was tired, and he was getting hungrier, and he was getting more tired. And the day was coming close to the end, and he was beginning to wonder where his place to sleep that night was and where his next meal was coming from. And he turned around a bend in the road, and he looked down in a valley, and he saw a dojo. Now, do you know what a dojo is? It's a school for samurai swordsmen. And the tradition is that if you engage in a mock battle with wooden swords with one of the students, that your reward for doing so is to have a nice meal and a place to sleep. Okay, this is just what he wanted, and he started walking towards that dojo. And then he got a little closer, and a thought came to his mind. I am an old man, and I am tired, and these are young students, and even with wooden swords, it's not going to be good for the old man. But he didn't really have any options, so he kept going. Then he had an idea, and a smile went across his face. He got a spring in his step again, and he headed for that dojo. He walked right up to the main door, put down his knapsack, and he rapped firmly on the door. Rap, rap, rap. Well, it was quickly answered by one of the students who saw him and said, well, hello, grandfather, and what can we do for you today? I have come to challenge the master. The master, said the student. How about a first-year student? We have wonderful first-year students. Why not challenge a first-year student, grandfather? I have come to challenge the master. We have second-year students. How about a second-year student? That would be we would appreciate it so much, grandfather. I have come to challenge the master. Well, the student was aware that now this old man was determined, and so he escorted him inside. He said, I will go fetch the master. Well, as he walked through the practice hall to the other side where he was going to call the master, the students realized what was happening, and they turned and they looked at this old man with his knapsack and his walking stick, and they wondered, what in the world? Because you see, when you challenge the master to a duel, it isn't with a wood sword, and it isn't for a meal and a place to sleep. When you challenge the master, it is a fight with a real sword, and it is a fight to the death. They were interested to see what was going to happen, shall we say. The master comes into the room, and he greets the old man, and he nods. The old man nods back. And he says to one of the students, would you please bring our guest a sword? And one of the students scurries up with the sword down in front of the old man. And then the master says, please pick up your sword and we shall begin. Well, the old man just stood there. And the master repeated, he said, your sword, please, and we shall begin. Well, at that time, the old man spoke for the first time, and he said, long ago, there was a beautiful mountain. Oh, a magnificent mountain. At the base of this mountain was a river. And against the river was a village. And in this village, at the very end of the village near the river, was a cottage. And in the cottage there lived a man. Now each day, the man would get up and he would go to the river and he would listen to the stories the fishes told. The fishes told of their journeys out to the sea and up the river, places they had been, what they had heard. He loved those stories. And then he would go into the village and have tea with his friends. And he would share with them these stories. At that point, the master put his sword down. And he said, you have defeated me. Well, the students were on their feet. They said, he didn't even pick up a sword. How could he defeat you? And the master said, how many times have I told you that the most important part of swordsmanship is concentration and being present in the moment? This man, this storyteller, took me away to some place I had never been, to a time I have never lived in. He could have defeated me at any moment. And so it is with those who tell stories and those who listen with their hearts. That's the storyteller and the samurai.